Welcome to Collingswood Listens. I'm Grace Hopper, your host, and I'm here today with lovely guests Abby Rutman and Mindy Lair. What's up, guys?
Hi,
Hi.
Grace.
How are you?
Doing great.
Thanks so much for coming on the show today. I'm so excited to have you both, and I feel like it's been such a long time coming to have you on the cover of Collingswood Living.
Yeah, I've just been waiting around.
I know. And what not a better issue than the Pride issue?
Yeah.
It's going to be super fun.
We're super excited. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Of
it's awesome.
course. So I just want to run it back a little bit to the first time I met you guys.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember.
Can you put a mask back
remember.
on, please? Because I don't recognize you.
So for our listeners, that was three years ago in the winter of a global pandemic.
Mhm.
And I believe Mindy called me or I called
think I
Mindy.
reached out to you.
I think Mindy reached out to me and said, hey, I see you're doing a cool project in town. Whenever people are doing cool projects, I want to figure out how I can help. And I just remember that being so cool. And I've met with so many people and businesses. And there's certain people that just kind of, you don't forget. And that was one of those interactions where I was like, this
Yeah,
is
we
rad.
sat on the porch. It was like, can't come
Yes.
into my house, but we'll sit on the porch.
Yes. And then, we sat on the porch and Abby was like, do you guys want drinks? We're like, it's 11 a.m., Abby, but yeah.
That's fine.
So here we are though, 3 years later.
Yeah, here we are.
So for the listeners, how did you get to Collingswood? Who was here first, or did you guys move to Collingswood together?
I came here first almost 20 years ago-ish. I was 26. I'm 44 now. I was coming up to Philly a lot to visit friends. I worked my way up the East Coast, was in Virginia from college, then moved up to Annapolis where a bunch of my teammates from college were, then was visiting Philly a ton. People were taking me around, Philly neighborhoods, Conshohocken, Manayunk, all those places. And then one weekend I stayed in Collingswood with one of my best friends from JMU, Val, and she wasn't home yet. Her and her girlfriend weren't home. And she's like, just go walking, I'll be home in an hour. And I walked down Haddon Avenue and I was like, this is adorable. And when I drove into her house, I passed Knight Park, and I had been looking for a place to move up this way to rent. And the main things were having space in the home or the apartment for my business, which is Red Dog Designs. And I worked from home at the time, and enough space for my dog, my chocolate lab.
Right.
And when I came to Collingswood, saw the houses, saw the yards, I'm like, forget anywhere in Philly. I think I need to start looking here. And that's how I landed here.
Nice. And then you and Abby.
Yeah, so then I
wooed Abby.
she wooed me. And then a year later, after we were dating for a year, I was living in Baltimore at the time. And then, so we did like a year of living apart, which is very uncommon for lesbians. I don't know if anybody knows that, but we did not U-Haul it, as it is called.
Okay.
So we took a year, and then I moved in. So I've been here, it'll be almost 7 years in September.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So where did you guys meet?
We had a mutual friend, shout out to Dina Rizzo, that I was just coming out of a long-term relationship in Baltimore. It was 5.5 years, and we just had broken up in that July. And I guess Mindy, I think, was the backstory to her side, from what I understand, was she was like, come on, guys, somebody knows somebody single. Like, I don't want to date online anymore.
Well, I did one stint of online dating. And
Okay.
great person, lasted however long, ended. And I just knew, cheers to all the people that meet online dating. I just knew, because of all I know a lot of people. And I just felt like whoever I ended up with was going to be somebody that I met through a friend. So I remember one evening talking to Dina on the phone and saying, you are the perfect candidate to find me somebody, because she knows just as many people as I do. And I was like, come on, let's go. Like, what do you got? And she did. She thought about it for a minute. She goes, I do have a friend, Abby Rutman, but she just broke up out of a 5-year relationship. And I was like, oh, like fresh out of a relationship. Nobody really wants that. But Dina ended up kind of connecting us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was like, I'm not ready to date anybody, but I'm open to meet anybody. So I was like, if you can kind of coordinate like a concert or something, because I was for whatever reason, that year of the breakup, I was really into going to concerts. Like any concert I could get my hands like tickets on, I was going to. So anyway, so we try to coordinate, and then Mindy kind of stepped in. She was like, "I'm over this. Like, let's meet at I was like, "Fine. If you can find something that's in between, I'm going to be in Allentown for this weekend. I will meet you in between for a cup of coffee." And so we met in Wilmington, Delaware at Brouhaha
Okay.
coffee shop, and that's kind of the rest is
She pretty much
history-ish.
fell in love with me on the spot.
So wait, so you guys meet at a coffee shop and instantly just like sparks,
I don't know if it was instant for me because I was I was
apprehensive.
very interested. Like she's a very interesting person. Um, but I had my wall up because I know better than to jump into something out of 5.5 years. Like
Sure.
that was July. This was September, October. So it's still really fresh from that long relationship. And so I had my walls up, my guard up. I was like, this is fun, but like I need to wait a little
Sure.
bit.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, she was,
We just had a great time that day. It was
yeah,
like
it was
she
so
had
much fun.
her, how old was Charlie? 14.
Yeah.
This old beagle.
Oh,
Aw.
She pulls him out of the car. We're like, oh, well, we met for coffee. And then it was clearly a cool day. He was in the car. And then we're like, let's go for a walk. We got a cup of coffee. And then we're like, let's go get a bite to eat. We walked to her car. She pulls this old, chunky, gray
And his stroller. I bought a stroller.
Oh
for
my,
him.
you're not one of
beagle
those
out.
people,
And then she
Abby.
pulls
I
the
am,
stroller
just for
out.
Charlie. I wouldn't for any other dog. He was worth it.
Just
I got
bump
him
that.
when I was 18.
Well,
He was
she's
my,
like, he
like,
won't make it.
college
He
puppy.
wouldn't have made it
Yes.
farther than probably 20 yards
No.
without the stroller. Anyway,
Aw.
we ended up sitting out on a patio of a restaurant that nobody else was out there. And I said, can we sit out here? And we kind of had a little private patio
Yeah, it was nice.
lunch.
And that was kind of it. And then we just talked. Then she went away and for a wedding in Mexico. Sent me all the drunk videos.
Oh wow.
Wooing me.
I was
right.
Kept you in the loop.
And you
Yeah.
you hung on.
And I reciprocated. So yeah, it was good. It was a year of that. And then my lease was up and I was like, what are we doing? Do I renew? Do I move? And so I moved.
Okay. So you moved into Collingswood, the house that you're in now.
Yep.
Cute little bungalow.
Yeah.
And then who proposed? Where was that?
Mindy proposed actually, what's today? Is today
Oh,
the
no.
19th?
No. Is
May
it the
9th,
19th?
May 19th, 2018, I think,
No.
in Martha's Vineyard. I had just signed up to do my first
Half
half
marathon.
marathon. And it was in Martha's Vineyard, which is incredible to go visit. So
We
it
were up there
was,
with April and Amy Scheller,
yeah.
who are our
wow.
great friends
Yeah,
and
they've
neighbors.
been featured.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yes,
they've
yeah.
been featured. So we went up there. The three of them ran the race.
Yeah.
Jack and I were spectators. And then the next morning, River and Abby and I went onto the beach.
Yep.
Take River to the beach.
And she gave me this ring.
Aw.
Yeah. And that's it. And then I proposed to her. We went to, which is funny. I know, like that's such
Yeah.
a weird, like
What, she
lesbian thing
proposed
to
and then
do.
you
Yeah, like the
proposed?
two propose. It wasn't
Is
really.
that like what?
No, she
is-
kind of just gave me a ring back.
Yeah,
That's
it's not.
a thing.
We didn't
Like,
really.
It is a
somet-
thing?
Sometimes it is a thing in lesbian relationships. Like one will propose, and then you'll see later, like I propose, and you're like confused.
Well, you didn't really propose.
I already did it.
You're like, where you
It's
did
like, well,
this?
you're already getting married.
Yeah.
That's a little flop. That's a little much.
So we
She's got
flew
me a
out to
ring.
Colorado in 2019. We were kind of not touring. It's her sister and brother-in-law's house in Sedalia. And so we were walking the property trying to figure out like where we were going to stand for the wedding and everything. And then I was like, so this is how I envision it. And then I pulled her aside and held her hands. And then they're going to say like, do you have the rings? And I like gave her ring
Aw.
in that moment
That's very cute.
when we were alone. So yeah, that was kind of how.
And that's the trip we got married, though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you guys had a really incredible wedding.
We were engaged in May. We started trying to get pregnant prior to that.
Yes.
I was pregnant in July,
Uh-huh.
and then we got married
In November.
in November.
So you were pregnant when you got married.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is funny now to look back at the photos because it was like, when you see somebody every day, you don't see change. You
Right.
know what I mean? So like, I was like, you don't look pregnant. Like you
Right.
look awesome. And
Yeah.
now we look back at photos. I'm like, oh my God, you were totally pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
How was
fun.
it being pregnant, like for your wedding?
Fine.
She
I
was the
mean-
best pregnant person I have ever, which is why I was like, I'll carry our second child because she made it look so easy.
Right.
It's not. It was not great for me.
Yeah, I know.
But
We're
it
not
was
all created
awesome for
equal with
her.
that.
Yeah, being pregnant for the wedding was fun. I mean,
Yeah.
So you were in a great mood, and I feel like I'd be
yeah,
like a
I was.
little like
No, I really sometimes would forget, and a lot of people are like, "You're such a bitch
Yeah.
that you're
having so much fun.
doing such a great job at
Yeah.
no, whatever." Yeah,
Well, Abby, were you throwing back champagne?
at the
Probably.
wedding.
Probably.
Well, our
Champagne is one
best
of my
friends,
favorite
our
beverages.
best friends flew out. The Emilys, Emily and Emily,
Okay.
Yeah.
and little Emily. She won the award for
At
Most
the
champagne.
reception.
most drinks.
Nice.
Yeah. She got an Uber home and
Set my parents' alarm off. It was.
It
she was-
sounds like
it was
a
a good time.
ball.
it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very small. It was just
It was all my family.
yeah, the immediate
The
family
Emilys
and the
flew
two
out.
Emilys. And that was kind of it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what was it like when you guys set the wedding date and told obviously your families probably knew obviously about your significant other at that point, but what was it like coming to your families and saying, I'm in love and Mindy and I are going to spend the rest of our lives together and vice versa. Abby and I are, this is it for me, or it happened prior to, tell me the story, happened prior to the engagement, obviously, just you're
Yeah.
announcing to your family that this is what you
Well,
wanted.
originally we weren't going to tell anyone that we were getting married. Because we wanted to have a big wedding in 2020. So we were like, we're just going to kind of go have this small wedding and that's kind of just going to be like between all of us and the family. And then in 2020 really do it after the baby was born. But then
Time
COVID
out.
hit and we didn't.
Yeah, our priority really was to have a baby first because at the ages we were like, all right, do we go spend a bunch of money on a wedding?
Right. We really want a
Which at
family.
40 and 38, we're like,
Yeah.
Not necessary. Like it costs a lot of money for, fertility treatments, all that. So we were like, we don't want to blow money on a wedding and then not have money for, making a family.
Right.
So we did all that first. And then we said, we'll recoup money and like she said, have a wedding in 2020.
Mhm.
So I do, we were like, let's get married before we have the baby, just for, birth certificate purposes, all that jazz.
Sure.
My mom called me one day and she goes, I know what you're going to do. And she said, if you guys are going to go to the courthouse, I'm going to fly out for it. Like, I want to be there for it.
Okay.
So with that being said, Abby was like, if your mom's going to do that, we're going
Let's
to
change the date.
Colorado for Thanksgiving anyway.
Yeah.
Because we switch off back and forth. And Abby suggested, she's like, let's just get married in Colorado with your family. So
Hmm. Her brother got ordained. He
my
married
brother,
us.
yeah.
And yeah.
And Abby, your family did fly or didn't fly?
No, they did not. They were invited. I have my grandmother is 104.
Wow.
So at the time she was 103. So anyway, my mom and like my aunt, they're the two main people that still live in Allentown, like near my grandmother. I call her Babcia, which is Polish for grandmother.
Oh.
So anyway, so they stayed to stay with her for the holidays and stuff
Okay.
for Thanksgiving. So
Okay.
yeah.
Nice.
It was really beautiful. 13 inches of snow, like beautiful
2 days
mountains.
prior, it had been 65. We were in
Everyone
short
was
sleeve.
trying to convince me that we're not going outside for this wedding. You're doing it in this living room. They were trying to like rearrange, and I was like, "We're going outside."
I have to see the pictures.
So
I'm
my
like,
brother and my
"We're going
dad-
outside.
My brother, my dad,
You can come
Emily,
if you want."
I think three or four of them went out and
Real casual.
shoveled 13 inches, shoveled a pathway for us.
Mhm.
Because the view from my sister's place is
We have
like
a photo of all
fantastic.
of them shoveling all this snow in their
Aw.
like suits and
And I think my mom, my dad, my sister, my niece June, and my brother were out there. And Ellen,
and Ellen, yeah.
my sister-in-law. And everybody else stayed inside. I mean, it was frigid,
That sounds awesome.
but it was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it was really
sounds
pretty.
What was it like coming out to your families and telling them that you were gay? For each of you, was it very similar experience or?
No.
Our experiences are polar opposite. Mine, I have to say, from all of our friends and people that have had to come out to families, mine is I'm extremely, extremely lucky for how my family is. There truthfully was never a question in my mind that anybody was going to have a problem with it in my family. it was more me saying to myself, like, I had dated guys before, and then I'd fooled around some girls, and then I had a 2.5 year relationship with a girl, and we broke up. And I was like, am I going to be with girls? Like, part of my head was like, I could maybe go. I was still attracted to guys and all that, but there was just never like like, I didn't really want to be with them. So,
Okay.
but there was a part of my head, like, the minute I tell my family this, am I going to go meet some fantastic dude that I'm going to
Right.
end up, whatever. Long story short, I never had any question that they would be awesome about it. And sure enough, I think they kind of like, after that point, I was 25 and, had started my own business. I would say I'm a pretty good personality. I'm not terrible to look at. And I think they were like, why does she not have a boyfriend?
Right.
So at one point, I think there's a little chatter behind the scenes, and my sister confronted me. Was like, not confronted me. I came home from like out to dinner with friends, and she's like, I have a question. And I said, yeah, what's up? And she was like, and it was probably 10:30 at night. And I had a big event for work the next morning. I was setting up a huge booth at the Great American Beer Festival. So I was
Okay.
out in Colorado. And she's like, are you lesbian? I just looked at her and I said, is it a problem if I am? And she goes, no, not at all. We just kind of want to know. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, we'll talk about it later. And she's like, okay. I'm like, all right. I was like, we'll talk about it after this weekend. I was like kind of stressed out about the work stuff. Like,
Right.
and then my mom, then I just approached my mom and said, is it, if I was dating a girl, is it okay? And she's like, yeah, it's fine. It's not a thing. Or no, she asked me, I was living in Annapolis at the time. She goes, if you keep living in Annapolis, how are you going to find a nice young man or a nice young woman to be with?
There's
Because
no nice people in Annapolis.
well, no, because in Annapolis, I was essentially living with two of my teammates from college, their mother's basement apartment, which was beautiful in Annapolis, and then the two sisters, Amy and Kate Brew. Kate Brew had just had a baby, and Amy Brew had just gotten married. And that's who I hung out with. My mom's like, you hang out with a married couple and a new mom.
Right.
That's who you hang out with. How are you going to meet somebody? And so when she said, how are you going to meet a nice young man or woman? And I was like, is it okay if it's a woman? She goes, yes, it's fine.
Aw.
And then she started crying. I started
That's
crying.
sweet.
It was like this cute little crying moment. And then I had to go meet friends for lunch. And she's like, I'm going to bake a pie. And I was like, okay, go bake a pie.
I love that.
And then the big one was my father. He was amazing. He's like, can I talk to you? And I was like, no. He's like, you don't have to talk. He's like, you don't have to talk. You just have to listen. And he like legit leaned back in his chair, looked up, and he was like, sexuality is a funny thing. And I was like, oh, God. And then he just went on to say, like, men love men, women love women. It is what it is. And he said, we raised you to be kind, like loving, trustworthy, like named all the morals and fantastic values they've raised me with. And he's like, as long as you are the person we raised you to be and are a good person, we don't care who you love. We just want you to find somebody.
Yeah.
So it was very easy for me.
Yeah, it was. Very
Everyone's
easy for you.
fantastic.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I love hearing that.
Yeah, her story's great. When she told me that, I was just like my brain couldn't wrap my head around it because I mean, a lot of my friends don't even have that easy of a story
Right.
for our age group too. Like now it's kind of
When
incredible.
I get very angry and offensive of people, of my friends
Yeah.
that have problems with
Yeah.
their family, I'm like, as a mother now also, it's insane
Sure.
to me.
Totally.
It is insane to me that any parent would do some of the things that parents and families
Yeah.
do to their kids.
What do you think the root of that is, that people behave that way? I mean, as a parent yourself, because I think about it too. Like, I'm raising two young girls at home, and like when I hear your story, it's so inspiring of how
How to
like
handle it.
how kids should just be embraced to just I want you to be healthy, and I want you to be happy, and I want you to live the fullest life that you could live, and anything else is
Yeah.
whatever it is. And
Right.
I love you, and that's all I want as a mom. But I know it's not that journey for a lot of other people, and
I
they
don't know
struggle.
what the root is, if it's ignorance or if it's people not. I think a lot of times it's people like putting themselves in these little boxes, and they're only in their neighborhoods, and
Right.
they don't know any gay people, or they don't know any black people, or they don't know any Asian people. Like, I think it's
Open your
just
mind.
open your mind and
Yeah.
go learn about those people. Go be around those people.
Yeah. And see what the world
See what
is.
the world is.
Yeah.
Stop, I think,
I think people are insecure around being different and they
yeah,
want to maybe, try to make themselves
it's strange. I don't know what the root is, I
yeah,
think, but I do think it's a lot of just being in one group and not expanding horizons
being a little
with the people you
narrow-minded.
surround. Yeah, narrow-mindedness.
Yeah.
So,
Abby, tell us about you.
Um, yeah, mine wasn't as pretty as that. It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't pretty. That's for sure. So I grew up in the Lehigh Valley and then moved to Texas when I was like 14, 1997. And it's a very small school there I moved to. Now it's not, but at the time it was teeny tiny. So I was the new kid. I was the first new kid in like 5 years. And so anyway, I made friends. I'm in athletics, whatever. And then I had my first experience with a girl at 14 during a sleepover and never really talked about it. I was dating the senior basketball player. Like I always had boyfriends. And then at night it was like this big secret.
Right.
And one day my parents were out of town and
or you
they
thought.
came home. Yeah, not out of time. They went out to dinner. They came home early and caught me and my girlfriend, quote unquote, and did not go well. And then it just kind of led to any time. It led to me continuing to suppress the truth behind it because
Right.
it wasn't immediately like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
We want to talk about this in an open way. It was more of like,
It was
oh,
hidden.
they're not okay. I need to lie. I
Right.
need to defend what happened as if I didn't know what I was doing or like just deny everything that they saw and try to convince them that like no, I'm fine, like I don't know what that was, like
Right.
she came on to me or like I didn't know how to handle it, like I would just create.
But in your heart, did you know, like, I'm gonna end up being with a girl? Like, I
I
should set
didn't,
the
because I
stage?
same with Mindy, like I always kind of believe like you love who you love. So my whole entire adolescence, like I was always attracted to men and women,
Okay.
apparently. So like I never shied away
So
from.
you both liked men and
Yeah,
women.
yeah, and I was kinda like, if the right guy comes around, great, and I think that fueled some of.
Not wanting to just open the book up and it
Yeah, well,
just
not even that, I think it kinda fueled the reasoning behind my family not really being accepting because they would catch me in, moments with women, but then if in my personal life not talking to them about it, that relationship with the girl would go bad, I would jump to a guy, and
right.
then I'd be like, "This is Dan."
Right.
And, like, you know what I mean? And they'd be like, "Oh, thank God." And, like, because it's hard, I I keep saying I don't know where I heard it. It was either a movie or it was somewhere, but, like, when you come out as as same sex, that you enjoy men, women, or trans, or whoever you enjoy being with, if it is not who your family, who your parents expected you to be with, who they had these expectations of this life of grandkids that they were going to have, and it
Right.
doesn't fit into that book,
Right.
they now have to come out. So it's not just you being like, Mom, Dad, I'm gay.
Right.
It's also making them sit there with their friends and their friends being like, how's Mindy? And her mom now has to go like, she's great. She's married to a wonderful woman, and they have to be prepared for that feedback. So
Right.
like you're not only coming out to your parents,
Right.
they're now having to come out to everyone else.
Right.
So it kind of sets them up to also admit something that they never thought they were going to have to do.
Right.
So my parents they never said, you can't bring her over here. Like when there was always this like understanding. Like, I'm not going to not invite them to dinner, but when I introduced them to everyone else, this is Abby's friend,
Right.
even though we all knew.
They never let you know. They never accepted it. They never let you feel like you were accepted.
Like they never embraced.
Yeah, but they also didn't like reject the person.
Right.
Like my dad and my ex, before Mindy, he adored her. I mean, like, could not have been a bigger fan.
No, he would have liked me so much better.
So it's funny, but it's like it still wasn't talked about. So I never came out. I never said, "Mom, Dad, I'm gay." It was always kind of like, "Watch me through my relationships
Right.
and let's see how you handle this one."
Right.
So that's kind of how it's been through my teens, 20s, and 30s up until I met Mindy, and I was just kind of like, "Look, I'm done."
Right.
Like, because even after that 5-year relationship, uh,
Attempted.
I attempted to date 2 men, and
Didn't
it
go
didn't
well.
work, and that was 7 years ago, you know what I mean? So, like,
Yeah.
I would always backtrack and be like, "God," because I mean, I think any lesbian will tell you, dating women is hard. The pool is very small, and it's so much
Right.
emotions.
Because that's
It's so
women.
much estrogen.
Right.
It's a lot. So, if I could be attracted to a guy and it
It
was
would be
easy,
easier.
I
You'd
would
roll with
I
it.
would try, but
Right.
I'm
This was the
not.
harder
I
option.
I think we both can say we gave it the Girl Scout try.
I love that. So, Abby, hearing about how your journey was a lot different than Mindy's journey, it
Mhm.
sounds like it's been like kind of a push and pull for many years for you, kind of just like coming into your own and just owning who it is that you are. Looking back, obviously hindsight's 2020, but how do
Mhm.
you look back on all of that and think like I should have addressed this and that and this and the other completely like what is how do you look back and reflect?
Uh, it's hard to look back and say as a 14-year-old I would have held my ground and
Right.
said, "This is who I am, accept me for who I am," because I didn't know who I was.
Right.
So, if anything, I think I would go back as a 14-year-old and after that moment, like the first night, try to wrap my head around how do I get my parents to not be so afraid of this and not deny it to them, but not let them make me feel bad.
So
Like
like
this
more
is something shameful.
so like open dialogue is something
Yeah,
you think.
I think I would tell that 14-year-old girl like it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's something they need to open their minds to. So it's not you
Right.
at all.
And I think as a parent now, and not, I mean, our kids are 5 months and 3, but
Mhm.
the experience that I went through, my it was like a non-issue. I told my family, it was like, okay, what's for dinner?
Right.
Um, to parents out there, and to, Abby's sitting here like, as a 14-year-old, I should have been like, oh, how do I get my parents comfortable? As parents, it's the parents' job to take care of your kids. It's the
Right.
parents' job to make your kids feel safe, to make them feel loved. So it's not really up to a 14-year-old kid to do that.
Right.
Going back, knowing what you know now, yeah, you could have been like, talk about it more. And
Yeah. It'd almost be more interesting to ask my mom and dad that question, what they would have done differently. Because I wonder if they would have,
Right.
if they could go back, how they would have handled it.
Right.
it just, it
We need Kim
creates,
Durham to ask my
it
dad.
creates such a barrier. It creates such a barrier, I think. And that's not just Abby and her family, but a lot of my friends that I've seen go through this, having parents that are not accepting of it,
Yeah.
and the toll it takes on them.
Right.
I could go into a couple of stories, but I won't because we'll be here for 14 more hours. But
Right.
I just think as parents, if your kids come to you with that, or you think your kid might be gay, I think a lot of people now, it's not an issue.
Right.
We're
Oh,
at
it's
friends' houses
incredible.
3 summers ago. We were at a friend's house, and their 13, 14-year-old daughter is hanging out at the pool with a couple girls that we all knew, friends of hers. And there's a girl that I didn't know. I'm like, oh, who's over there? And they're like, that's, you know, XYZ's girlfriend, and I'm like, oh. And Abby was like taken aback. She's like, this is so awesome that they're 13-year-old, 14-year-old, and they're just like hanging out at the pool
Right.
with their girlfriends. And the
And they
parents are
call
all
them by that
fantastic
name.
with it.
It's
It was
become like the culture.
Yeah,
yeah, it's
it's
insane.
accepting. And,
It blows my mind. Even on like runs or walks in the morning and I see girls walking to Collingswood together holding hands, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like
It's
Wow.
pretty cool
I mean,
to
granted,
see.
this was also Texas when I was this age, so it
Sure,
really
but
Different
frowned.
world, different world.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway,
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on the show and
yeah,
sharing your journey and being vulnerable enough to just I know you guys are an open book, but I
Oh
think
yeah.
it's so meaningful to come on and tell the real stories. And you guys are obviously incredible, and we're just thrilled to be able to feature you
Anytime.
for such a special issue.
thank you. Yeah, this has been
This is
really
fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us
Of
and
course.
yeah, thank you.
reaching out.
Yeah.
Happy,
Cheers.
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 Thank you. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride Month.